Okay, yeah. Wow. Oh, wow. Is that yours?
Oh yeah. You wanna show me your gear?
Oh God, I'll show you my gear. Here's okay, I'll show you mine. But you gotta show me yours, okay?
Okay, but you go first.
No, you go first.
Okay. Look at it.
Wow. It's so big.
Yeah, show me now yours.
I don't have a big one like that.
Can I touch it?
Okay. I'll extend it. There you
Oh
go.
wow. It's cool.
Yeah. They say it's what you do with it that counts.
Ah, okay.
Wow, and yours just keeps on going.
Yeah, look at those three.
Oh my God. And you could just add that on?
Yeah, you just change it.
You need extra people to hold that, or is that just
I mean, it takes a bit of practice, but you can do it yourself.
wow. It must be genes. I don't know. On the edge of real and cyberspace, there's one place you can go, and he's pointing at me, and you found it. Welcome to Nightwise.com, the one and only podcast with hacks, tips, and tweaks for cross-platform geeks. And welcome at Casa del Nightwise. We're actually in, not only the studio, we're actually in the kitchen. Welcome to my kitchen table. And I have a guest today. Today we're going to talk about DSLRs, about cameras, and about what you can do when you want to buy a second-hand digital camera and get into the world of digital photography. With me is a longtime friend of the show, house photographer, and, artiste extraordinaire, Konrad, photographer.
Hello, thank you for the introduction and thank you for having me in your, kitchen studio.
Yeah, kitchen studio. Martha Stewart is very, very envious of our kitchen studio because ours is real.
I can see that, and I see the setting with nice lamp and delicious cupcakes which I tried.
Oh yes.
Just before we started, so I might still have some chocolate here.
We've got chocolate cupcakes, which are delicious. But, that's not what we're here. This is not a cooking show. No, it's not a cooking show. Okay, yeah, go good. Konrad, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Because you are a photographer. So basically, how did you get into photography and what do you do as a photographer? Are you a nature photographer? You do elephants or?
To start off, I'm a Polish photographer based in Brussels, Belgium, currently. I started with photography when I was approximately 14, 15 years old. And it started this way that, although I was young at that time, of course I'm still young, but I tried to, I had this artistic feeling. I tried to express myself through some kind of artistic way. And I tried painting and drawing. And I felt miserably in that. So the next best thing was photography. And that's how it started. And I do mostly portraits, conceptual portraits and fashion. But I also like from time to time to do other types of photography, sports photography, action photography, product photography. It's really, I like to explore different types of photography and learn from one type and try to incorporate something into a different one that gives something fresh.
But the world of photography has really changed the last couple of years. I mean, it used to be that you would really have a chemical device that you would fire and that would actually shed light on a piece of chemically coated plastic, which you then had to develop. And that's come a long way since the advent of digital photography. And it's meant a substantial difference for the average consumer because everybody and their gran has a camera in their pocket these days with point and shoot camera phones. And regular point-and-shoot cameras are also very, very cheap to go by. But there is, of course, the brand of more serious devices, DSLR devices. What's the difference between something like this, which is a DSLR camera, and a like, for example, a camera like this, or a smartphone camera? What's the difference between these $50 point and shoot cameras and these, aside that they look more impressive?
Well, so the first obvious thing is the size. If for a photo, so there are two things that you can discuss here. One thing is the image quality, and the quality will differ. And the other thing is also the purpose of the cameras. For point and shoot cameras are great. Right now, all the point and shoots, I think most of them, at least on the market, they capture awesome images, really good quality. But of course, if you work, or if you would like to do something more, you need probably a camera that also can record images in different formats. For example, point and shoots, most of them record images as JPEG files,
which are compressed image files.
Which are already compressed image files. They're good for editing, but if you want to do some more pro work with editing, it's good to have different file size. For example, RAW, which gives you a bit more freedom to edit. But that's already a detail. In general, so one is the design and the size. The other one is probably quite important difference is that you can change the lenses with DSLRs, which you cannot do with most point and shoot.
You can do it once, and then you break the lens.
And then you break the lens.
Okay.
Of course, there are mirrorless cameras that are quite small, and you can change the lenses there. But of course, they're without mirror. They work slightly different than DSLRs, but they're of course as well smaller and more portable.
So DSLR stands for digital single. Digital DS single lens reflector. I know some of you are screaming at the screen, going like, digital single. That's very good of you. We applaud your enthusiasm. What does that mean? What, in the words of Neelix in Star Trek, what does that mean, Mr. Vulcan?
It basically means that there is a mirror sitting between the sensor and the lens. The mirror serves the purpose that it transmits the light coming through the lens up. It bounces off another mirror that is here, and you can see an image in the viewfinder directly.
And that bounces back to the sensor, and the sensor captures the light that comes onto your SD card.
No. Basically, at the point when
I loved it how I just went completely wrong there.
almost there.
Okay.
So at the time when you press the shutter button, the mirror inside pops up, and basically at that time the light passes towards the sensor, but doesn't hit the sensors because there are usually two curtains that move up and down, and they open. So it's a bit now.
Is that what makes the nice clack noise?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. So there are two curtains that move up and down. Basically, when you press the shutter button, the mirror goes up. One of the curtains starts to go down and opens the way for the light to hit the sensor. During that time, the light hits the sensor, and depending how long your exposure is, after some time, the other curtain starts to follow the first one down, and it closes down the opening, and then the mirror goes back down.
So before you press the button, you're actually physically looking through the lens.
Yes, you're looking through the lens, not directly. Keep in mind that you still have two mirrors that bounce off the light and the view.
And with the point and shoot, you're actually, you're looking at what is already captured on the sensor.
Yes.
And so you don't physically look through the lens, or optically don't look through the lens.
Well, depends how you define it.
For a noob,
I would say you still look through the lens,
but not.
You just don't have the mirror. You look through the lens, but you see an image that is directly that directly hits the sensor.
Okay, so that brings us to the question: why? Why do you need to look through a lens? Why do you need such an expensive thing here that is very bulky? It gives you more possibilities, and there's more that you can do with it. But I saw on eBay, I saw one of these little Fujitsu point and shoots which had like 15 gazillion megapixels. Isn't that good enough?
So megapixels are not everything. And to answer your question, why you need this kind of big body, well, in fact, many people, they don't need this kind of body. They would be, probably happy having point and shoot, and they still would do the same things that they do on the auto mode with their DSLRs.
They buy this very expensive DSLR. I bought one, and Konrad said, if you ever take pictures in full auto, I will come down and kill you.
And I think it will happen because I see your DSLR is on auto.
quickly jamming that button there. So is yours.
No, it's. The question was, sorry.
I completely forgot. No, I mean, like a point and shoot with a lot of megapixels isn't the same thing as a DSLR.
No, it's not. It will not have the same functions. DSLR gives you the freedom of really playing around with different settings. It gives you the freedom of changing the lenses, of playing with the lenses, having a wide lens or having a very big zoom lens like this one, 70-200, that really zooms in and brings the image very close to you. It also gives you a flexibility and possibility to work with different light sources and external flashes through the hot shoe here. So it's really at the end, it depends what the person needs, what the person wants, and what the person will do with a camera.
You can use a DSLR on full auto just like a point and shoot, yes. But it's a waste.
That's my opinion, personal as well. That it is a bit of a waste, and I see many people, and I know a couple of them who bought pretty nice DSLRs, and they work on full auto mode.
I saw this last week when I went to the computer shop, and there was this guy there with a 17-inch i7 MacBook Pro with an SSD running Windows 7. And the guys, nerds are cool, noobs are cool, but noobs with more money than nerds who have expensive gear and do nothing with it is the worst.
Shall I comment on that?
I'll just put my expensive camera off of point and shoot. Now, there are a lot of big brands out there. Well, there are not a lot of big brands. There are just a couple of big brands out there. Which are the biggest brands? So let's say I'm somebody who wants to get into point and shoot, who wants to come from point and shoot photography and go into the more artistic realm of DSLR. What are the major brands I could possibly pick from?
Well, you don't have a problem here. There are three major brands right now.
Yeah.
Those are Nikon, Canon, and quite recently Sony has been I think not even recently, for at least a couple of years, Sony has been quite heavy in entering the DSLR market. But Sony, the difference between the Nikon, Canon, and Sony is that Sony produces mirrorless cameras. So those are cameras that you can still change the lenses. They look probably like those two, but they don't have a mirror inside.
So you don't look through the lens.
Exactly. The benefit of that is that the shutter, the continuous shutter, can capture much more pictures than the DSLR. The drawback is that because there is no mirror between the lens and the sensor, when you change the lens, there is some chance of getting some dirt on the sensor.
Okay, but because there is no shutter physically moving and no mirror physically moving, they can capture more images and are great for let's say HD video.
No, for sports photography. For sports photography,
they're really fast.
Really fast. They're usually faster as well than let's say cameras like in terms of Nikon like D7000 or D600. Of course, when we talk about pro cameras like D4, they're really for pros.
Hunting down Paris Hilton.
Those are paparazzis. I'm not sure if they use D4. Probably they do. But yeah, then you can compare the speed with a Sony.
Okay. Now, if you're at the point where I was a couple of weeks ago, I went looking around for buying a camera, and I got a chance to get a great deal on a second-hand camera. And it's always tricky to buy second-hand DSLR equipment or photography equipment or computer equipment because it's delicate. And especially with a camera, it's even more delicate because you don't take your 17-inch MacBook Pro out around your neck in the rain, which you could do with your DSLR. Konrad's given me some tips on what to look for and what to watch out for, because basically I have one big tip for anybody selling any black plastic technical material, and that is cockpit spray. This is a little can that you spray inside the cockpit of your car, and it makes everything nice and shiny. And that's about all I know about selling secondhand stuff. So buying secondhand camera stuff does require a few tips and tricks, and you were going to help us in noticing some of the key things you should look out for when you're buying a secondhand DSLR.
So, well, there are two things when you buy a DSLR. Let's assume that you're buying a body with a lens.
Oh, wait. Body is the bottom part.
If you put it like that.
Yeah, okay.
it is the bottom part.
Yeah.
So basically, you got the body.
Yep.
And a lens. That can be a small lens like that, or a bigger one. So those, yes, something like that.
I can see. I can just see Jupiter from here.
And you should investigate both parts quite closely. So one thing that you can start with is the shutter count. You might not know, or you might know, probably you do already, know that every time you take a picture, the camera records the so-called shutter count. Mm-hmm. So it counts how many pictures it has been taken with a camera.
It's like the mileage of a car.
It is, exactly. And it saves in its memory, but it also saves in the files when you shoot raw.
In the metadata.
In the metadata, yes. So one thing, and you can just Google your listeners, viewers can Google that, and you will have at least a couple of services that where you can upload a file, and the service will tell you how many pictures were already taken with this camera.
And you cannot lie. You cannot reset that in the camera.
A user or a pro user normally cannot do it. I think
A hacker can.
a hacker can, and I think was it last week or 2 weeks ago, I read information that Nikon's, I think it was Nikon's software, the service software, got somehow online, and where it was possible actually to reset that count.
Okay, but the average user who only has the camera cannot do this.
No.
Okay, so shutter counts like the mileage.
Yes.
Now, how much is much?
As far as I know, there are no strict figures. Some producers can tell you that the camera was tested and designed to, let's say, take 100,000 pictures.
Okay.
I would say that you are on the safe side if, let's say, up to 15,000 pictures were taken with a camera. Usually the camera will go up to sometime between 100 and 150,000 pictures taken. There are also services online. You can check an average life of a shutter in camera based on brands or types of cameras. Like, for example, you can check on average what's the shutter count on Nikon D5000.
Okay, so I had to illustrate. I got the camera. It all looked very professional when the guy who sold it came to me. I went like, "Yes, let me check this out," and I actually pretended to know what I was doing. As a client, that's something that you might want to do. Try to know what you're doing, or at least make it appear that way. I had a shutter count of 3,400 clicks.
Which was almost like a new camera.
Okay. So shutter count's important. You just basically take the camera, take a raw picture, and go to the website that tells you what the shutter count is. What else is there that you need to look out for?
Well, one other thing is that also shutter count will not only tell you, how many pictures were taken, but it also will tell you how heavily a camera was used. In the sense, of course, if someone took 30,000 or let's say 100,000 pictures.
And he says that the camera is 6 months old.
Yeah, that means that the camera was heavy used. Maybe there were chances that the camera was used on the rain, outside, rough conditions. Of course, the less is used, that there is a better chance that let's say the camera will be in a better shape than a camera that was used for 100,000 pictures. Yeah, so that's one thing. The second thing is you can also look at the LCD screen and see in the back if there are any scratches.
Okay.
Usually some cameras like this one, this is the D7000 Nikon, has a protective plastic screen here that actually protects the LCD. You can see if it's scratched, if the LCD itself is scratched. If it's not, then of course it's another benefit for you to get the camera. Shall I continue?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. If you have any questions.
So we've taken a look at the shutter count. We've taken a look at things that we can physically inspect. Are there any other things that we can really look at first glance how a camera is being used? Now, all of this, what Konrad says so far, is indeed compared to how old the person says the camera is. If you can get a certificate of purchase, it's very important that you get that. That will actually tell you the date the camera was bought or produced. And if he says, like, I've got it for 6 months and it has 100,000 clicks, means that the camera is more heavily used than somebody who says, I've got it lying around for 3 years in the attic and I've got 3,000 clicks. Now, what other physical inspections could we make?
So another one is a strap. For example, if you can investigate the strap, and if it's worn out, if, for example, this sign is gone, or you can see that.
That's okay.
You can see that basically it's worn out. Then it means that the camera was used quite often. The same goes with these parts here. If the metal here is used, you can investigate. Shall I call? Do you want me to?
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
We'll make some close-up shots a little bit later on. So doing this all at the same time is hard, but you'll get some close-up shots later on. Continue.
So you can investigate the parts where actually the strap is attached to the camera as well. So that's about the strap part.
Because you can replace the strap with a new one when it's worn out, but you cannot replace any wear and tear on the body of the camera where the strap actually physically interacts with the camera.
Exactly, that's the case. The same thing actually. Not sure how it's in Canon, but for example, in your case, this button actually it's not fully metal. It's a plastic.
Okay, that's the shutter button.
This is the shutter button. This is a plastic that is just painted with metal-like looking paint.
Yeah.
And of course, if you see some scratches here, or if you see it's worn out, it means it was quite heavily used. Of course, it doesn't mean that it's broken.
No.
Or anything wrong with the camera. And the next thing, so this is about the exterior body.
Yeah.
The next thing that you should look closely into is the lens itself. So you should investigate the lens, the plastic of the lens. If it has any scratches, maybe it's, God forbid, broken, or any marks that suggest that a person hit the lens against a table or some other
really physical damage.
Physical damage. And if that's the case, if there is a heavy physical damage, there is also possibility that there is a damage to the attachment in the camera. So the screws that hold the lens into the body are also, there might be bent, there might be something wrong with this area here.
And you can show that by actually taking off the camera. And these are the screws that you're talking about that might be bent. These are little. We'll show you in the close-ups a little bit later. These are little knobs where the camera is attached to, and these will actually get damaged.
Actually, those are inside here that you cannot quite well see. But if you just take a flashlight and point it to the camera, you can investigate closely. And also, if there are any damages, it will be around in the metal. Here you will see the metal is bent in the camera here in the body, and as well you will see some marks on the lens. The lens itself,
where it actually screws into each other, because that would have been physical damage where the lens is actually wedged or twisted against the body.
And at some point, that if that's the case, and you notice that should give you a red light, and at that point, for me, it would be a no-go. I would not buy.
So you can live with a high shutter count. You can live with a strap that's worn. You can live with a shutter button that's a little bit, flaked. But when there is physical damage to the lens or the screws, it's an immediate stop where you're doing a walk away.
Exactly, that's the case. Because you know that something wrong has happened to the camera. So next thing, once we are here already, you can also investigate the inside of the lens. So
you basically take a hammer and you smash it and you take a look at the inside.
No, you are very careful. Actually, we should close your lens here. So
we'll just put a different lens on
the body. No, okay. Actually, you should not put upwards.
Oh, okay.
When you change, that's okay. Let me tell you. When you change the lens, to avoid any dust coming onto the mirror or the sensor, you should always point it down.
Okay.
So let me change it for you.
Watch this, kids.
If there is dust a bit here, there's no problem. You got a little blower with it, so that's the least of the problem. Also, you can blow a bit to get all the dust before you put the lens on. That's it.
So look, it's bigger. I don't know what it does, but it's bigger. Full auto, and it's bigger. This is like a chick magnet.
This just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart.
Okay.
So the lens, after investigating the exterior of the lens, it's also important to look inside the lens to see if all the glass that is inside is in good shape. The best thing is that you will find here a little metal thingy.
Yeah.
And this is actually for changing the aperture.
Yep.
If you look, it goes.
What he does is
bigger.
actually move a little bit on the edge of the lens, and you can see the opening inside going bigger and smaller.
Basically, it works like your eye.
Yeah.
Right. When it gets dark, your eye, the black thing becomes bigger, and also when you do that, it gives you a possibility to see
through the lens,
the glass.
Yeah, I can actually see right through the lens, and I can see right through the lens, and I can actually see if there are any scratches or physical damages inside the lens. I've heard that mold grows inside a lens.
That's possible if it was in a longer period of time in a humid conditions.
Rainforest,
for example.
Okay.
Or a bathtub. Then humidity can get inside the lens, but it cannot get out. Once there is any moisture or anything in the lens, it's also no-go, at least for the lens.
So a dent on the lens, a scratch on the lens, and a mold inside the lens, those are all showstoppers of buying, even if you're going to go with a lens. By the way, I just did the little cap on, and we found an extra tip on how to see if your lens gets used a lot. I compared, and we'll put this into close-ups. I compared my lens cap with Konrad's lens cap, and what turned out is that I said to Konrad, I said, "Look, your lettering is a little bit worn out. Your lens is used." And then he pointed at mine, and at the indentations here where you grab the lens, I had dust, which meant that my lens had been sitting like this in a closet somewhere for God knows how long, and that's actually a good sign. So dust in the lens, not so good. Dust on your cap, well, might be a good thing.
And the other thing is that also maybe a person was using some kind of camera bag where he or she put the camera like that. So this part is worn out because it was touching some material. That's actually what I do. That's probably why it's worn out.
Okay. Then lettering. That's one that you also should look at. You know, if the lettering on your camera, the text or so, the little prints of the focal lengths and stuff, all these cute little numbers are worn off. You can also see that is because the lens has been used a lot. So we got quite a couple of tips here when you buy yourself a secondhand DSLR. Now,
there's one more thing. There's one more thing that we haven't discussed yet is the sensor itself.
Okay.
Now
this is actually something on the inside.
That's something on the inside. It's relatively sensitive and probably one of the most important parts of the camera because it records an image.
Okay, so your camera might look fancy on the outside, but it records crap because the sensor's dirty.
Because it's dirty, because it has scratches, it's broken. You know, there are many reasons. Mold.
Really? Inside a body?
Yeah. It can happen. It can happen. So I would not recommend looking on the sensor directly, unless you have unless you already have specialized equipment for cleaning a sensor, which usually is magnifying glass with some extra light that you can look into the sensor. Other way to check your sensor is to take a few sample pictures of different settings. For example, white background, darker background, and look closely at those pictures on your computer. If it has some dust, usually it's possible to clean it. Probably if the camera was a bit used and the sensor was never cleaned, it will have some dust, but usually dust itself is not a problem. In fact, it's very easy to clean it, and there are few ways to do it described already online. YouTube is full of those examples.
And when you have scratches, how do you see that in the picture?
It will be a line, most likely. It will be a line, and the dust will leave just spot marks. Of course, when you as a spot mark might also be an indication of not actually a dust, but rather that the sensor is broken. So when you see some spots in a sample image, then you might want to investigate a bit closer about the sensor. And another thing is that when we talk about recording image, it's also good to check where the SD card goes, to see if there are any damages here, if maybe some plastic here is broken, because usually when this flap breaks, then you have a problem, because then your SD card here is exposed. So it's good to take your SD card out, put it in, check this part quite closely as well.
Okay, so you've got a complete inspection routine of buying a second-hand camera. Do you have any other tips or getting started tips for people who are really ready to go out to Craigslist or eBay or Kw604 or wherever to go out hunting for a second-hand camera? They've reached their limits with their point and shoot, or are no longer able to pick up any girls with this tiny Nikon Coolpix that they have, and they need to compensate for something. Where should they get started? What tips do you have for them?
Well, question that people ask me quite often is, what kind of camera should I get?
A black one.
A black one that takes pictures.
Preferably.
There is no simple answer. It really depends what you want to do, how much advanced you want to be. But probably if you already know you want a DSLR, you don't know which one, I think that the best solution is just to talk with your friends, see what cameras they have. And let's say if the majority of your friends have a Canon cameras, go for a Canon, because then you can exchange lenses with them, you can learn from each other, you can exchange other gear. And at the end, Nikon, Canon, it's almost the same thing. So you will not regret either one of them. Okay.
So for all you shutterbugs ready to roll out on the big Wild West of the DSLR, where can people find you to see how it's done?
You mean my website?
Yes, presumably, or I don't know, the address of your mailbox or your kitchen sink, or where can they find examples of shining lights of how they could achieve greatness?
How they achieve greatness? Not on my website, definitely not. My website is probably will be easier to put a link somewhere below here, somewhere here, or here up, or here.
Depends. Probably it's there.
Konrad Dwojak, it's DWOJAK.
www.pornpuppies.com. Sorry.
No.
www.pornpuppies.com? No, okay. No, seriously. The URL is?
Seriously, it's www.konraddwojak, KONRAD, and you can also find there links to my Facebook, Twitter accounts.
Okay. And if you don't know, you just go over to the website of nightwise.com and you'll find the link to Konrad's website in our right corner, where we endorse his activities because he's very good at what he does. Thank you, Konrad, for joining us on KWTV. Any big projects planned for the coming weeks photography-wise?
Yes, I have 3 projects for April that I'm preparing with some models. Those are conceptual and action photography.
I heard you passed up the lingerie shoot of Milena Jovovich, who was in Brussels this week, because you were too busy.
Unfortunately, I was a bit too busy. Her how's it called? Her
Agent?
manager,
Yeah.
yes, agent. Tried to set up something with me, but my agent said that I was too busy.
Yeah. This was normally planned for tonight, but Konrad said we have to appear on KWTV and have cupcakes. That's about all we have time for this week here on the Nightwise.com podcast. Konrad, thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine.
Okay. Then happy shooting.
Happy shooting. Yeah.
Happy shooting. Yeah. Happy shooting with your camera, not with a gun in a high school.
Only with the camera.
Only with the camera.
Where you can shoot people.
Really?
Yes, with a camera you can shoot people.
I need a bigger gun.